A few weeks ago I planted these high-rise potatoes, and you've seen them once since if you've been watching the videos I've made. Now right at the moment they're looking pretty good, but there's one little problem, and that's that there's a little bit of blight showing on a few leaves. There's not a lot on here, there's just a few that have some black spots on. Now this has been happening for a couple of weeks. Around about a week ago it was becoming more frequent, and I was seeing quite a lot of it occurring. And what I've been doing fairly consistently is coming along every day to picking off leaves that have the problem, like this one, and I saw another one here, just taking the individual leaves off and disposing of those, getting them out of this area. I believe it's happening because this is generally an enclosed area and there's not a lot of airflow. I've got the door open today because it's nice and sunny, and the more I can do that, the less likely this is to happen. But we're still getting some cool nights, so this type of thing is more prone to occur when it's moist and cool. About a week ago I did treat these with some natural fungicide, and I'm going to repeat that today. I found that using that dramatically reduced the incident, and the amount that was there and how frequently I needed to actually remove these leaves reduced. So it's starting to pick up again. I need to do it again. I think a couple more times and the weather will change and I won't really need to, and it won't really be a problem. So today I'm going to go around and take off any that I find, and then we'll go and prepare to spray it. Now I'm not very big on spraying things, and it's fairly rare that I spray anything, but when you've got a little problem like this, if you don't do something about it, it's going to become a lot worse. When I do spray, I always try and choose the least toxic spray that I can find. So I'll explain that more in a moment. Now, as I'm just going by here, you'll have perhaps noticed in the background of the last shot that I have pulled back the plastic off the potatoes that I planted here around about 2 weeks ago now. The reason I've done that is they're coming through, the more advanced ones are coming, and they need the light. We haven't had any frosts, and the weather at the moment doesn't look like it's going to happen. But you never know, it could always turn cold again, and that's why I've kept the plastic here. If I see that it's going to frost, it's getting cold enough, I would pull it back just for that one night. But otherwise now it will stay off and these potatoes will get underway. Now, as I said, I always like to choose the least toxic spray that's available. Now, the normal thing that you would use for the type of problem I have in those potatoes is copper oxychloride. It has a very long history of use with potato blight, both early and late, and is known to work. Now, copper oxychloride is something I do use. It's obvious I do have it. I mostly use it for the fruit trees, particularly for the peach trees and dealing with curly leaf. But it's something that I only use if I can't avoid it. It's not excessively toxic, but it is a little bit more toxic than the thing that I have used last week and I think is working okay. And that is some eco fungicide. Now, what is this? This is potassium bicarbonate. And so it's very similar to bicarb soda, which we're all familiar with. And so that has very low toxicity, quite safe to use. You mix it with a little eco oil and that just helps the adhesion. So I'm pretty happy to use this. I'm finding it's working. Using it in this instance is off-label because this is generally suggested for downy mildew only, but as I say, I'm finding it's holding it back, along with coming along and removing some of the leaves as I go. So how much do I make for something like that? I find that around about, well, probably around 3 litres is adequate. I'll mix up 4 litres. Now, in terms of sprayers, I said I don't use them a lot, so I've only got a fairly cheap one, but I do find a backpack sprayer like this is a lot easier to work with. You don't have to fill it to its full capacity. It's a lot easier to carry if you don't, but still at 12 litres, it's not too bad. And it's much easier to use than the ones you're carrying around in your hand. One of the tips with these is to get a permanent marker and mark some levels on it, because they never actually on these put the levels in anything that you can read easily. So I like to mark them off. I've just marked off 4 litres, 8 litres, 12 litres, because that's the amounts that I'd normally mix. So I've half filled to about 2 litres, and I'll bring it up to 4 litres, and I'll put enough for 4 litres in there and see how we go with that. It should be more than enough. I'm using a teaspoon per litre, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. This goes in. And a couple of mils of the oil per litre, so it only needs about 8. I'm guessing it a little bit, something like that should be fine. So I need to go fill this up to the full level. A really important thing when you're actually filling a sprayer is to use nice clean water. You don't want any sediment in the water, because it's going to block up your jets, and that's a real hassle. So I'll go fill this now and be back. Okay, I've now filled it up to the correct level and I'm ready to put it on. Now, a couple of tips with putting these on is, one thing I've found with this particular sprayer is to run the hose underneath one of these straps, so it's coming across your shoulder. Without that, it tends to fall down and catch underneath, and then becomes quite a problem. The other thing is to actually bring the pumper forward before you put it on. If, as it's quite easy to do, you throw it back like this, once you've got it on, it's really hard to actually get that handle forward again. So bringing it forward a little and then getting it on. Now, I will say I've got the double spray head on this one. It comes with 3 different spray heads. I've used this double spray head for spraying the fruit trees, but I've temporarily misplaced the other 2. Now, until I find them, I'm stuck with these 2, but that'll be fine. It'll cover it very quickly. It's always good to have a bench too in getting it on, because it makes it so much easier. So, ready to go. Okay, ready to spray, and it doesn't take much pumping, and this really pushes it out with the double spray head on. But it's really good to saturate it well, including from underneath, and that's one of the things that I did last week. I find good. So only a couple of minutes and it's done. Now you might ask, do I need any safety gear in spraying something like this? The answer is no. If you've got it actually in your eyes, it may irritate your eyes, but otherwise this is very safe. My thought is, if I need to wear protective equipment in order to use it, I don't really want it on my food. So that's why I'm choosing something that is very safe. So I will continue to monitor these and spray them about once a week, but I think in a couple of weeks, as the weather warms and as I have the door open more and there's more airflow, they're going to go really well.